Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Move More, Worry Less. I'm your host, Paige Vesta, the founder of 13 Fit. Today's guest is Alisha Beeman. She is a personal trainer and coach, and she is a part of the 13 Fit community. From the launch of this podcast, it's always been part of our mission and really the purpose behind this podcast beyond just self-development, but to open a dialogue about mental health and normalize talking about it in a way that we talk about physical health. It's really normal to talk about our physical health, but it still feels kind of weird sometimes to talk about our mental health. And although I think it's getting easier over time, I think it's really important. So today's episode is all about Alisha and her journey physically and mentally, and the things that she's found have helped her throughout her journey. With that said, I'm excited to introduce you to Alisha Beeman. Alisha, I am so excited to have you here today. And I say we just jump right into the conversation. And if you want to give a little introduction of yourself, who you are, what you do, and it doesn't, obviously you are more than what you do. So it can be other things as well, things that you like, where you live, whatever you want to share to introduce our listeners to you.
Yeah. So, hey y'all, I'm Alisha. I live in South Tampa right now, and I work out at CrossFit Thumbs Up. I am a in-person coach as well as online coach. I do work with generally everybody, but the people who I resonate more closely with are people who are post-collegiate athletes who are trying to make fitness work for them in their busy lives again. Especially for those that are coming out of college, trying to transition back into that lifestyle of like, okay, I'm not, this D1, D2 athlete anymore with this crazy schedule of school, work, and working out 2-a-days. They want to transition into just being able to make fitness a part of their lifestyle, as opposed to like, I have to train for all of these different things. So that gets me really excited about what I do. On my free time for fun, rollerblade and watch movies and read. Right now I'm reading Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. But yeah, generally I'm a really laid back person, pretty quiet, and I'm an introvert, definitely an introvert.
Very important question. Do you read nonfiction or fiction or both?
So right now I read a lot of nonfiction, but literally my next book, I have decided I'm going to read a fiction book. So don't know what that's going to be yet, but I got to dive away from nonfiction for a little bit.
Yeah, I totally get that. I love nonfiction. Yeah. I'm always trying to read something that's going to help me in one way or another, or I like to read about people, primarily comedians, I feel like, but
you read a lot about comedians?
Yeah, I've read like Tina Fey's book, Amy Poehler, Trevor Noah, Chelsea Handler. I've read like all of her books.
Okay.
They're super fun because they're funny. So they're telling stories, but they're funny too. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like sometimes I have to force myself into reading fiction because it can become so exhausting to be taking in like productive information all the time.
Fiction is where you can kind of play because it's like reading a movie almost. So I've read some fiction, like I've read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I've read Gone Girl, and I really did enjoy those books. And I think it's easier, honestly, to get lost in a fiction book because with nonfiction, I have the opposite issue. It's like I'm taking in so much information, especially since I love self-help books generally. So I've read Professional Troublemaker by Lovey. What else? I mean, right now I'm reading Seat of the Soul, and that's about like being within your soul, being one. You are more than like your labels out in the world. So that is a lot of information for me to take in and like just sitting with it and processing it. But fiction, it's just like freaking free for all. I just read, and it's like reading a movie, and you get to use your imagination. So I think that is why I want to incorporate more fiction in my reading.
Yeah. Cute tangent about books, but let's talk about your fitness journey and mental health. And I'm going to let you kind of take control over how you would like to talk about them, because I know they're separate, but also tend to intertwine. But I would really love to share your story on both ends of that.
Yeah. So they do intertwine. I do believe, so honestly, my mental health journey, that has been going on for me as far back as I can remember, is fourth grade. But I do remember a lot of pretty scary things happening between, when I was born and up until fourth grade. Not a ton of memory, but my parents are not married. I remember, living with my grandmother when I was 3 years old. And, we were in the court a good amount of times, whether it was for my sister or it was for me, with my grandma dealing with a custody battle and things like that. So I think there was a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma that came from experiencing that from a young age and not really understanding what was happening. So I ended up seeing a counselor in fourth grade early on. And so that's like, that journey started at a very young age. I think for me, as it relates to my self-esteem, because that's the thing that I struggle with the most, that came out when I had my first boyfriend. And he was controlling. He was, he never like put his hands on me, but he was, emotionally abusive. And I was so young at the time. I was, 13 years old. So then that kind of shaped my self-esteem, because, he would flirt with the older girls who were, had bigger boobs and all this stuff. So early at that age, like around 13 and in middle school, is when I started to be really concerned, honestly, maybe around sixth grade, concerned about the way I look. And I didn't develop fast or at all. And so self-esteem was something that bogged me down a lot. And when I got into high school, that's when I first was introduced to organized sports outside of a few years of karate when I was younger. And that's when I really started to like love sports and working out and exercise, because I did volleyball, basketball, and track and field in high school. And so every season I was in a sport, and it became a part of me. It was like, I could not sit out a season and not do a sport. Like, that was just not something I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to have fun. I wanted to be with my teammates, and I wanted to get better. As early as freshman year, I started keeping track of my track meets. Our coach used to give us these sheets, and they would have like our placements. They would have like our school records. They would have where we are, like our top 3 or 5 people in each like event. And I was like, I want to be number one. I want to be number one. And so that drive, that motivation in being better developed a lot when I was in high school. But I still battled with my self-esteem, and I was very depressed, very anxious. I self-sabotaged like a mother. Like, I was just going around just ruining friendships, and my relationships were a mess. I didn't have a steady relationship until my junior year of high school. And then when I went to college, I let him go too, even though he was a fantastic person. But I was just young, and my priorities were so a mess. But then my freshman year of college, I was bullied in my first semester by a girl who was mad at me about a boy. And I think from that point on, like, again, I still had the self-esteem issues. But then I just went into a deep depression, and I remember being like relatively vulnerable with some of my friends about my depression and anxiety. And it seemed to me at the time that it was overlooked. And so I just started pushing people away left and right. And I don't know, through that journey, I was just, honestly, sports is kind of what kept me afloat. I did track and field all throughout college. I did 5 years in school because I did transfer to a new school. And the entire time, from the moment I started sports freshman year of high school until I graduated, the entire time I dealt with self-esteem issues. I was extremely depressed. I didn't think I was worthy of of anything. I didn't think I was worthy of people loving me. If people, especially when it came to my like romantic relationships, if people wanted to show love to me and be with me, I would pull away because I thought it was too much, or I didn't believe that I deserved that much praise and that much love. Like I didn't want anyone idolizing me or making me like, oh, you're the most important person in my life. It made me feel uncomfortable. Because again, I didn't think I was worthy of it. And so in being in sports, I really loved seeing myself progress there because there was not a lot of progress. There wasn't a lot of progress, I thought, mentally and emotionally for me at that time. Like I was definitely growing in some ways. Like as you get older, you do start to mature and everything, but sports is what kind of kept me at bay while I was still trying to figure out what was going on with me, because that was like, I'm a very type A person. It's like, I can see the numbers, I can see the results. So like, this is like hard evidence that like something is moving forward. And with mental and emotional stability, it's like so abstract. And for someone like me, it's so foreign. It's like, I can't like completely measure this with like very exact numbers. And like in the gym, it's like, you know, I know what weight is going up. I know what I need to do. But with mental and emotional like progress, it was just so, it's kind of overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But then I stayed in Maryland for a year after graduating. And then on a whim, I was like, I'm going to move to Florida. So I packed up my car and I moved down here. And the intention at the time, I didn't know the transformation that was coming when I made that decision. I just felt like a pull in my heart the 2 times I came to Florida. And I was just like, I need to move and I need to be away from people. Like I need to move somewhere where I don't know anybody, because I was back in Maryland in the year I graduated college. It was as if like I was having fun, but I was going through the motions. You know, I was going out every weekend still, everybody's celebrating new things like new job or just quit my job or I don't know, babies and all these things, or excuse me, not babies. At that time, not yet. Now we are. Yeah. But we were just celebrating so many things all the time, or just going out every weekend. And then I would work my 9-to-5 job. And honestly, I was just existing there too, because I hated what I did. So moving to Florida, I was like, if I go there and I don't know anybody and I'm like forced to be by myself, I literally have no choice but to face everything that I'm running from, because I've been running from my emotions and running from my trauma for literally my entire life. So when I came down here, first thing I did was get a boyfriend. and honestly, I think that relationship added so much value to my growth, even though truthfully, when we broke up, that was like one of the most hurtful things that I had ever felt. Because I think I was in love with him, but I was in love with everything that he taught me. That's where I really dug a lot into personal growth. That's when I learned a lot more about creating discipline in my adult life. Because in college, yeah, I did sports, but I could have been a little more disciplined. So it's like, you know, he really taught me how to be more disciplined, how to like move towards growth mentally and emotionally, because he was so introspective himself. So when we broke up, girl, my life changed. Like, you know how you like break up with somebody and then you're like, oh, I'm about to be the baddest bitch ever after this. That's exactly what happened. But those 6 months after that breakup were like the craziest 6 months of my life. I had never felt so happy, so fulfilled, so excited. And at that same time, I had just got certified as a OPEC CCP coach. So then it really started to move my life in this direction of like, you're moving in the direction of things that matter, things you care about, things that Alisha wants, not what, you know, your ex wants, not what your friends want. Like, these are the things that you want. So ever since, and that was in 2019. And ever since then, like that, from that moment to now, it has been a journey of not only pouring into myself, but like creating a life that I want. And like, it wasn't until then that I really understood what that looked like for me and what it looked like to come into my power and really get to know Alisha so that Alisha can give Alisha what she wants and Alicia's not molding herself to the people around her.
Yeah. You mentioned in the beginning of your story that you have been struggling with anxiety and depression since you were young. Were you aware at that time in your life when you were younger that that was what you were experiencing, or is it something that you look back at and you're like, oh?
When I was in 4th grade, not a clue.
Yeah.
Had no idea. I don't think I explicitly knew and defined it as depression and anxiety until after high school.
Yeah.
Even in high school, I was generally like the happy-go-lucky type of girl, but there was so much pain inside, and the only way I knew how to deal with that pain was to just be happy on the outside and just like, it was like I told myself I didn't have a choice but to find joy in everything.
Yeah.
But with doing that, I never addressed anything that I was feeling either. So I was just like a little ball of anger.
Yeah. Since then, obviously, a lot has happened. Many years have passed since since then. And you've been on this really amazing journey now where you have been able to really focus on yourself and face all of these feelings and really pour yourself into your self-development. What has depression and anxiety looked like for you now that you are aware of it? And perhaps have other ways of coping rather than acting joyful on the outside, but feeling so hurt on the inside.
Yeah. To be completely honest, it was almost easier when I was unaware.
Ignorance is bliss, baby.
Yeah, because you're just existing. You're like, yay, living my life, not really like knowing what's happening, not really taking ownership of the things that are happening in my life because of what I'm not addressing.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a good time because now that I'm aware, it is so much more work. And I can't even lie. Sometimes I think it can feel more challenging to know what's going on, because then from there you have to figure out, what do I do? How do I heal through this? What is going to work for me? And then you're pretty much doing an experiment on yourself. Whereas before, becoming more aware of like the different thoughts that I was having, or really just trying to like figure out trying to figure out what my automatic reactions are to life, and shifting those to something different. Many people, when it comes to mental health, we talk about shifting your mindset, but shifting your mindset is a workout. Like, you have to do it consistently, and you have to do it over months, over years, for you to really like change the way you think. So to go from, let's say something as simple as like, oh, this was the big one. My boyfriend didn't send me a good morning text, so he's not thinking about me in the morning, to he didn't send me a good morning text, maybe he's having a late morning and he's just going on, about his day. That doesn't mean he doesn't love me and he doesn't think about me. Like, it takes a lot to get to that point, because you have to change the narrative in your mind. And in order to change that narrative, you got to work for it. So now that I know that in this state, again, like, wow, it was, ignorance was bliss. It was very much so bliss. Right now it's exciting because, if you are somebody who is driven towards progress and driven towards being better, it's almost like it's a game. Like, how can I shift my mindset? Okay, what things are working? What things are not working? It's like you find excitement in the challenge of, helping yourself get better.
Yeah. So how has fitness played a part in that journey for you?
Yeah. Ooh, fitness as it relates to mental health. It's interesting because right now, as I compete, it's actually been a little bit more hurtful to my mental health because now I'm in a season as an athlete and as an individual where I'm trying to keep that fine line of like seeing my competitors, and if they're better than me, not allowing that to be something that defines whether or not I'm good enough. So that's been tough because while fitness, I think as it relates to lifestyle, like when I was just working out and I wasn't competing, it was really cool because I was just like, I was just going in, working out, seeing my weights go up. And then, for me at that time, it was like aesthetics. So I was, doing little donkey kicks and whatnot. This was before my certification, it was before that. So I was just kind of winging it, but it was fun and it would make me feel good. And I loved prioritizing it. Whereas when you transition from doing fitness for life to doing fitness to like actually to be more competitive, it can take a toll on you mentally. And so right now, my current battle is less about my self-esteem and less about my self-esteem personally and more about how my self-esteem relates to me as an athlete and as a business owner. I think those two things have been extremely difficult to navigate.
Yeah. And just for our listeners, CrossFit competitions, correct?
Yes. CrossFit competitions. Yeah.
I figured so much.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, and I totally get that because I feel like fitness there's a fine line between it being a part of your life and making you feel really good. But if you go too far, it can definitely have that. I've been through similar things. I've never competed. But just, if you get too involved sometimes, and like you're saying, you're a very type A person, I am as well. You start seeing numbers, and if the numbers don't align with what you want them to be, it can be it can be really overwhelming. But on the positive side of things, how do you feel fitness has like before this competition season where you're trying to like figure it out and balance that out? How do you feel fitness has improved your mental health?
Yeah. I mean, fitness does exactly what most people say it does. Like it gets you excited when you're in there and you're moving that weight and you're doing things that you never thought that you would be able to do. It just does something for you mentally that I think you can get in a career setting and whatnot, but when you really push your body and you're able to lift, let's say, certain weights, or even when something clicks for you differently, whether it's like body awareness, like noticing those things, it's really exciting. Again, like, as people, I think all of us love a challenge to some degree. And the mental aspect of that is like, developing that mental strength, or like, as David Goggins calls it, the mental, like you're building your calluses. So I think as it relates to my mental and as it engages with the rest of my life, fitness has really developed my mental strength, my mental capacity, my mental calluses. And even so, like, just me being more setting boundaries and being more myself, because when you're in there and it's just you and the weights, that experience, how you push yourself by yourself. I know, there are people out there who do group fitness, but for me, being able to push myself while I'm alone and while nobody is there pushing me, it just provides a different experience that allows me to feel stronger, feel empowered. And just, I feel a sense of achievement when I finish work.
When you're working with your clients, do you notice a shift in them at all when it comes to their mental game as they're like progressing in their fitness? Like, can you see that as a coach?
So I not so much see it, but I do have calls with my clients, or the ones I see in person. We get to talk. And the biggest thing I think I've seen, or the biggest shift I've seen with my clients, is I train many women. And a lot of times women are training or working out to change their body. in some way. And what I've noticed with the women that I've trained, they've come to me to maybe change their body. But then as they continue to lift, they learn through that journey how working out is giving love to your body. And then what I've seen is that they very quickly, meaning maybe like 6 months, within 6 months, their mindset goes from like, I need to lose this weight because I don't like the way I look, to I want this to be a part of my lifestyle because I love the way this makes me feel. And I think that's a really cool transformation that I've got to see with quite a few of my clients.
Yeah. And I love that so much. It's cool. Like, what an understatement. It's so cool. But it's cool that fitness is able to give that to people. And like, I've experienced that, obviously you have, and then just watching that happen for other people is quite cool, I guess. So let's bring it back to your mental health. Where do you stand with that right now? And outside of fitness, where do you find resources to help you? What resources would you recommend? Any coping
coping mechanisms.
Thank you. It's Sunday for everybody listening, so we're recording on a Sunday. My brain is not 100% on. Yeah, coping mechanisms. Like, let's get into all of that.
Yeah. So where I am now, the different things that I use, I go to therapy. I do have a therapist, and resources, I will happily recommend my therapist to everybody. She's amazing. So, but yeah, no, I love my therapist. She has been transformative in just where I'm at now. I've been with her for a year and a half, and things that I've done on my own. So honestly, I think, back in 2019, this was something that changed my life, and it's something that continues to help shape my life, is truthfully talking to myself. When we talk to other people and we talk to them, on the outside looking in, it's easy to give advice, but it's harder for us to take it. But a way that I have found to have those same type of conversations with myself, and bringing myself outside of me, is kind of crazy. But in 2019, I took a lot of videos. So I would, like, depending on where I was, and I would do them when I was feeling really elated and happy, and when I was feeling really, really sad. Like, I've got some really ugly cry videos in my phone right now. But the cool thing about that, and what I learned, was taking those videos, and then later on, whether I stumbled upon them months from then, or if I decided I was going to watch it the next day, I would watch these videos, and then I would kind of like be that friend. I would look at myself in the videos, and I would treat myself like I was a friend, and be like, what am I really saying? Like, I'm speaking through this hurt, I'm speaking through this pain, I'm crying, I'm hurting, but what is it that I really need? And even though I was looking for something, just putting the question out there would a lot of times help me have these like revelations, I guess. One thing that stood out to me during my breakup is I was crying a lot about, oh, well, he's going to go find somebody who's better than me, and he's going to be happy, and I'm not going to be, and I'm going to be this. And then one day I was like watching the video, and I was like, but the same thing could happen for me. I could find somebody who's better for me. I could find somebody who brings me joy. And then that's when I kind of started to learn to like flip the script. Like, you're crying because you think this is all the great things that's going to happen for him, but like, flip that script. Like, those things could happen for you too. And then, so talking to myself, and I did it with video. If anybody who's out there has done therapy, I'm sure they've heard of mirror talk. So I am very comfortable talking to myself in the mirror. And I will have conversations with me, and I'll just be like, especially when I'm like elated too, like sometimes you need to be your biggest hype man. And I would just look myself in the mirror, and I'll be like, "Bitch, you look good today. You look really good. Your eyebrows are on point. This fit is on point. You feel good. Business is doing great." And like, it's kind of like you're talking to yourself, but like, we go through our life and we talk to ourselves all the time, whether you don't actively do it or not, but like that little voice in your head, that's you just talking to yourself. Yeah. So when you talk to yourself out loud and you make a conscious effort to do that, whether it's out loud in video, out loud on a voice note, I've done voice notes very frequently, or in the mirror, or journaling. Journaling is extremely powerful. Those are the 4 ways that I would say, like, talk to yourself, because you need to be your own friend in order for you to like move forward. Just because I have friends that are supportive. I have friends that tell me they love me and that I add this, X value to their life. But if I don't believe it, what they're saying to me doesn't mean nothing. So I have to be my own friend, so that when my friends tell me that, I can be like, thank you for noticing that in me, as opposed to like, oh no, but I'm this. So the self-talk has been transformative.
That's really powerful. I've read a lot of things and I've done a lot of things, but I don't know that I've ever read or heard of anyone who like will video themselves and then like watch it back and then be a friend to themselves. And I just think that that's really incredible. And it's also really vulnerable, but which I like that a lot, because you have to be vulnerable with yourself to like be your friend. I just, that's really interesting. And your point about, you have to believe whatever it is that you want to feel, because, you vent to your friends or your family all the time and they'll tell you, oh no, you're fine. Or, but their words, although they're good intentions, right, it's not going to mean anything if you don't believe it yourself. So, that's really powerful. And I want to try that for sure. I hope our listeners try. Yeah. Well,
it feels good at first, but it's cool.
Yeah. Have you read the book, The High Five Habit?
No.
Okay. Well, you should read it. And because I feel like it would really, it's kind of stuff you already do, but maybe it would just be an interesting thing to check out. But basically she's
high five yourself in the mirror or something.
Yeah. And and it goes into like all this, and I've done it a couple of times. It's been hard for me to turn it into a habit because it feels so weird.
Yeah.
But the whole theory behind it is essentially that like you're high-fiving yourself, and a high five has a positive, oh my gosh, words are so hard today.
Sorry.
Connotation, positive, like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
From childhood, we know that a high five is positive. You don't high five when things are bad. So right, it's physically doing something positive to yourself. And then there's other things that go along with it. It wouldn't be a whole book if that was all it was. There's a lot of other interesting.
Like the 5-second rule. 3? Is it 5 or 3? 5-second rule.
I think it's 5, and I think it's that's by the same author, Mel Robbins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So 5-second rule. Yeah, it's the same thing. The 5-second rule is like, there's something in the brain that triggers when you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're taking yourself outside of whatever decision making you're gonna do, and then when you get down to 1, you do whatever that decision is. She talks about it a lot when it comes to waking up in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really cool. I love Mel. I follow her.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of aligns with that I used to do is, it's gonna get real intimate, but I don't care. I'm gonna share it. So when I take baths, I will hug myself and I'll hug like my legs, and I'll just like say kind things to myself. It sounds kind of like woohooey, but it works. A lot of times, like, give yourself a hug.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to be the embrace that you're looking for. I think there's so much power in giving yourself all the things that you may or want from other people, because if you can do all that for yourself, then anybody who doesn't add value to your life in a way that feels aligned for you, like, you can easily pick those things up, and then you can make decisions on it, because it's not empowering. It doesn't make you feel good, as opposed to like you not knowing what feels good, you not knowing how you like to receive love, and then you're just kind of like going off of these things that you think love is supposed to look like. but you don't know for sure because you haven't even explored what that could look like for you.
Yeah. Well, and I guess just speaking to the idea that you have to find joy and whatever it is inside yourself instead of seeking it from other people, because you're never going to get joy, real joy from external sources.
Right.
If you don't feel it within yourself. And I mean, that's something that's like part of my journey, is that I am very bad at finding joy inside. And that's like something that I'm working on. And I tend to go outward, especially like in my work. I work a lot and I like try to find happiness within my work, but sometimes it's kind of like a distraction. It's like, well, I've got nothing else to do, so I'll just work, you know?
Yeah, they talk about that in Seed of the Soul, the book that I'm reading. He talks about the five sensory human and the multisensory human. So the five sensory human is very focused on external power. So whether that's having more money or having more material things, whereas the multisensory human is focused on their internal power. So building themselves up from the inside and from the soul. So yeah, I think that speaks volumes, because I think many of us know that money doesn't make you happy. You make you happy. Although money would solve some problems that probably are not making you happy right now. But ultimately, you know, there are tons of stories about celebrities and people who have come into riches who are still very unhappy. And that's like one of the biggest external powers that many of us typically have goals toward.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, moving toward that goal, you can still have money and have joy. But having joy and creating joy within yourself could be more of a priority.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. So for your business, you are on social media quite a bit. Obviously, as small businesses, that's like our number one way of marketing, right?
Yes.
And I would love to get your input on how social media makes you feel, needing to be so present all the time, and perhaps how you find balance or cope with it. Because I know that I think social media has so many positives. I wouldn't have a business if I didn't have social media. Like, it is fantastic, but there's a limit, or there's a not a limit, a point at which it can become really difficult. And I find myself there a lot where I'm just like, I need to step away from it because it's so overwhelming sometimes. So I'd love to hear your take on that, because I know you obviously use it a lot.
As I continue to grow on social media, it has been interesting. I think the biggest thing that I'm still working through is setting better boundaries with social media. And that is the doom scrolling. That is, you know, honestly, sometimes even having the notifications pop up on your phone, because we're so attached to our phones now. And, you know, people, we say, oh, we don't have time for this. We don't have time for that. But in listening to this podcast by Cal Newport, he says he reads 5 books a month. And for me, I'm like, what? That is a lot. I'm just trying to get one. And he mentions just like how much time we have outside of our phones.
Yeah.
You know, we have screen time on our Apple got screen time thing on there now, so it'd be snitching on us. So I think it's just, for me, it's like setting better boundaries with social media. So like if I'm not going on there to actually like create reels for work, or create content or talk on stories, what I've been trying to do more actively is only go on there outside of those two things if I need to respond to messages and DMs or comments. And then outside of that, I don't need to be on it. I don't need to be scrolling, because I think what hurts us with social media is, even as business owners, like we still curate our feed. We still make our feed. And my feed is very much so, you know, I see a lot of what's going on in the world as it relates to mass shootings, as it relates to police brutality against our Black men and women, or Black people, and trans, like what's happening with trans people in the world, it's a lot of information, and it is heavy information. And we as humans, we were really never destined to take in this much information all at once. There's so much content we're taking in all the time. So having better boundaries with it, and then as it relates to just like actually getting content out and being a trusted professional, I mean, batch creating is the easiest thing that I can do. Is like just create all my stuff all at once, and then I just boop, 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 dish it out. Or it's easy for me as I work out, because it's like there's like one sound going around right now. It's like everything is content, everything is content.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't forget to record it or something like that. So now I just record everything. I record all my sessions. I do it for my coach, but I do it for my content as well. Just so that I constantly have things to pull from when I need to post. But coming off of it, being away from it, even sometimes for me, taking a weekend hiatus where I just don't go on Instagram at all, is helpful. And I think as a small business owner, it's easy for your audience to understand that, because while they say, oh, you need to post every single day, honestly, the most successful time in my business, I wasn't posting every day. I was posting maybe 3 times a week. Right. Off on weekends generally.
Girl, I haven't posted shit in like it's been like if I just like happen to have a good picture, I'm like, okay, I'll post it. But it's just been, when you're trying to do so many different things, it just is another thing you have to do, and it's important, but it's and as a business owner, social media is not just like, here's a picture. It's like, here's a picture. How do I make you engage with it? And how do I position my business in a way that helps us build trust? Yeah. As a person right now, the only social media I manage right now is my personal brand, Alisha Beeman. But that's where I operate my business out of, which is Empowered Being. And that's my personal training / coaching business online. But every post, there's a ton of pressure to be like, how do I make this post engaging? And there's so many people out there, coaches, business coaches, who are like, strategize, have your content planned out for the whole, whether it's for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months, whatever, for the year. And I know for me as a small business owner, it's overwhelming, because I like to come from a place that's very authentic. And I personally just would rather do things that feel more aligned. I believe that there is an extent to which there needs to be strategy, especially like, let's say if I was to have a big launch or something like that, like I need to promote it. I need to talk about it. I need to talk about what it's going to do. I need to talk about how it's going to help people. And as long as I'm excited about it and it feels aligned with what I do, I think that is when, one, I get the best results in my business, the best results in any of my launches. And two, it doesn't make it feel like, oh my God, like this thing I used to love, now I freaking hate it. Yeah. Because I have to create valuable content all the time. Right. And then not get butthurt if people don't interact, or which is like a whole nother thing. You're like, let me put all this effort into this thing to get people to engage, and then nobody engages, and then you're like, everyone hates me. At least that's how I feel. I do some half-ass thing that, I ain't put no effort in, and everybody's like, oh my God, I love this. And I'm like, well, I worked like 3 hours on the last reel that I made. Right. But that's like the ebb and flow of using social media as a business. Yeah, for sure. Business tool. I would love to consolidate a little list here of maybe, let's say, your 3 top tips for self-development in mental and physical health altogether. Like just like the 3 top things that somebody could do based on your experience. Okay. First one is kind of abstract, but it's patience. I think in any journey that we have, mentally, physically, or emotionally, patience is truly a virtue. The more patience that you can have with yourself, with your journey,
the more grace you're going to have in your journey, the more you're giving yourself space to enjoy the journey. So definitely patience. Number two, I would say, I'm an actionable person. I was going to try to save this for last, but like, I just can't let this go. I'm an actionable person, and whatever it looks like for you to develop a habit and make it something that is non-negotiable. So for me, I have a dry erase calendar board, and every month I put my little days in there, and I have symbols for the habits I want to do throughout my week and every day. And so a star is journaling, a heart is talking to a family or friend, a circle that's not filled is reading, a circle that's filled is meditation. And so every day at the end of my day, or the next day, I'll fill it in and I'll say, did I do these things? I even have one that's a money sign, because I want to start sharing my client wins. And I'm like, I want to share 2 client wins a week. How do I make this a habit? How do I make this, like, how do I see this? So I have a dollar sign and that's my symbol for when I share client wins. And so when I share my client wins, I put my little dollar sign, and it's almost a way to like apply almost like a check and balance. Like, are you actually doing the things you said you want to do? And here is proof that you're doing it or you're not. And if you're not doing it, then something needs to change. So whatever it looks like, for me, the calendar has by far been the most valuable thing I've done for myself. And I just started doing that in April. So I highly recommend people get a dry erase calendar, do your little symbols, give yourself gold stars every time you do things that you're supposed to do or that are going to help you grow. Do that. And it works for workouts too. So that's my number 2, my actionable number 2. And number 3, read. I think reading helps expand your mind, even reading and listening to opposing ideas. I've heard a couple of opposing idea podcasts in my life, and it's humbling, but it helps you see perspective. And I think perspective allows you to have more compassion. And as it relates to relationships, that's an extremely invaluable thing to have and trait to have is to be compassionate.
These are the most amazing tips, Alisha. I love these so much. They're very unique, and they don't feel like you just pulled them out of like a self-help book. It's like very much from your experience and what makes sense for you. Is there anything that we didn't touch on today that you would like to talk about before I do our little wrap up?
Nothing. I really wanted to tell people about the dry erase month.
Oh yeah.
I was
yes,
like,
got it.
Before I get off this call.
Yeah. I think that's great. And there's proof to writing things down, right? So it's like whatever method works for you, but to have tangible proof or goals written down, there's like I don't know the number, so I'm not going to say it, but there's a crazy percentage of like when people write their goals down versus when they don't, if they achieve them or not. And it's writing things down and being honest with yourself, because how many times I remember doing this in high school. I think it was in like my health class or something. It was like, write down everything you eat in a day. And you would just have to write it down as you went for like awareness. But it's so easy to be like, yeah, no, I eat really well because for lunch, I ate broccoli and chicken. But like all the little things that you might like, you're not honest with yourself all the time about like what's really happening. So I think writing it down, because you could be like, yeah, I meditate all the time. But if you look back, maybe like me, I'm like, oh yeah, I meditate, but this week I meditated one time. So so it's not like a great habit, and writing it down lets you really see.
Yes. I think that's what I love about people like us who are type A.
Yeah.
Like data driven. Mm-hmm. So if we don't see it and we don't collect enough data to actually prove that thing is happening, we're like, it doesn't make sense. That's why emotions and mental capacity and things like that like are they were hard for me, and I'm still working through it, but like they're just so abstract, and I'm like, I can't even deal right now. Like I need numbers, and I need you to tell me exactly what needs to happen.
Right.
How do I get over here?
Yeah.
But you don't. So, but yeah, no, I mean, honestly, that has, it really is, it's tracking the habits. Cause like you said, the food one is the craziest one. Cause people are like, yeah, I eat healthy. And then I get their food log and I'm like, you're eating 900 calories a day. You're eating for a 5-year-old child.
Right.
We need food.
Yeah.
But it happens so frequently.
I think too, with the writing things down, at least for me being type A and like potentially having control issues, like it makes me feel like I have more control over the situation.
Yeah.
Although like writing it down or not isn't necessarily controlling it, but I can see it. So I'm like, well, like it gives me this like feeling of control that I'm handling it.
Okay, got you. Thank you, because that helped me remember what my thought was. God bless my partner, because he's the one who's put me on to Cal Newport. And so Cal Newport talked about goal setting. And when we write down goals, especially in fitness, it's like, I want to lose 10 pounds. Or in business, it's, I want to have a 10K month. He mentioned how those are really not good goals to have. The goal that you want so that you can achieve that thing is, okay, if I want 10K a month in my business, what do I need to do to make that happen? Do I need to send out nurturing emails to my email list once a week? Okay, then that's my goal. Once a week, I send out a nurturing email to my clients once a week, or to my email list once a week. And then that's how you're going to start getting clients in. Or for that, I want to lose 10 pounds goal. So then the goal isn't, I want to lose 10 pounds. The goal is, all right, I'm going to go to the gym 2 times a week, and I'm going to add one more veggie to my meal every day, just to any meal, just one veggie. And so when it comes to goal setting, it's, we want the end goal, but try to break down the end goal to what the tasks are that need to happen to get that end goal. And that is your goal. And that's how you approach goal setting.
That's amazing. It's like bite-sized goals to get to your full meal of a goal.
Exactly. Because that's why my calendar freaking helps me. And I love it, because it's like, okay, did I meditate this week? Okay, I meditated. My goal is, okay, we're going to meditate more. What does that look like? Let's say meditating more means 2 times a week. So that means there better be a damn circle on my week, twice a week for the rest of this month. And if there's not, we got to reel it back in.
Yeah.
Figure out how we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And if I'm able to do that for 2 months, okay, let's do it 3 times a week. Let's add another circle to my week. And that's kind of how you grow.
Yeah.
And then end goal isn't always your end goal. That person could lose 10 pounds and then they're like, oh my gosh, now I have a different goal. Now I just want to be strong as shit. I actually have a client going through this right now. She lost 30 pounds and now she's like, now I just want to be strong. And I want to maintain and I want to feel really strong. I'm like, yes, goals are shifting. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, the evolution of goal setting, but making sure that we're starting out with really tangible, small win type of goals that are going to help us keep going in the journey.
Is this from a specific book that you have read, or where did it?
Yeah, Cal Newport, Cal Newport. He wrote the book about deep work, and he also has a podcast. So the podcast that it's getting away from me what the podcast is actually called, but honestly, it's an episode that my partner sent me, and I listened to it. I was like, "This is powerful."
Yeah.
And then I applied it, and I was like, "This is genius."
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm super into it. I am going to look for his book. I'm always here for.
I definitely recommend the podcast.
Yeah.
The podcast.
Okay, I'll have to get the episode, whichever episode you listened to that was good from you later.
Maybe we can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. We'll give the people the resources so they can copy and paste it and not have to remember anything. So I'm going to wrap this up with a couple sentence finishers. So we're just gonna move quick and you just say what comes to mind.
All right.
No pressure. It's not going to be anything ridiculous.
Right.
Okay. First one. The first thing I do when I wake up is
trying to figure out if I'm going to get out of bed or not. If I'm going to snooze or not.
Yeah. Then count from five down to 1 and then you get up.
First thing I do when I wake up. Honestly, I brush my teeth.
Love that. That's
it. It's very simple.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. My favorite exercise / movement is.
Oh, deadlifts.
Yeah.
Love deadlifts. Not just because it makes my butt and my hamstrings look great. But I just feel
there's
so strong.
There's a power in like doing a deadlift. It's like,
oh,
like
look at me.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely a badass movement for sure. My ideal Friday night looks like.
My ideal Friday night is a bubble bath with my incense burning and my crystals all out, and I'm enjoying kind of like a lukewarm bubble bath because them hot ones, they're a little hard to sit in, and just meditating in my bathtub, honestly.
Yeah,
those are like favorite Friday nights.
Yeah, it's funny how like as we get older, not that we're like old by any stretch of the imagination, but like a fun Friday night looks very different than what it did 10 years ago.
How fun is like by myself in my tub, candles lit, meditating, whereas before like take me to a place like Prana.
Yep.
Go turn up.
Yep. Friday nights, like if I can be like me and my dog, sit out on the back porch, read a little bit, maybe go to bed by like 9, it would just, that's an amazing Friday night.
Yeah, oh man, yeah. Not that I don't love going out. I do love to dance. I'm looking for a place right now, but no, I really love me like a nice, peaceful, quiet, like you said, kind of like for me, get to bed by like 10. It's nice. It's
Sounds
nice.
Amazing. All right, Alisha, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story and allowing yourself to be vulnerable with us. Like I've said before, and I'll say 100 times over, I think it's really important that people share their stories, because we've all got shit, and it's okay. We just have to work through it, but it's easier to do when we do it together.
Exactly. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And oh my God, I love everything that you're doing with this podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Move More, Worry Less. If you love this episode, please subscribe, share, rate, or review us to help us grow our mission. If you don't already, follow us on social at 13fit Apparel and visit our website at www.13fitapparel.com. Thanks for listening.